What's up, guys? It's TechnoViking23 coming to you today with a little bit of commentary about Destiny 2, and more specifically Destiny 2's newest expansion, Forsaken. As I mentioned in my What I've Been Up To video, I have been able to spend a little bit of time with the Forsaken expansion in Destiny 2, and I've been able to play through it for about the last two or three weeks or so, and I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts and opinions on the expansion, how I felt about it, what kind of direction I think Bungie's going in with Destiny as a franchise, and just in general give you guys kind of a rundown of my thoughts and experiences within the game, because I know we're only about 3 or 4 weeks since the new expansion has come out. I know a lot of people are still on the fence about whether or not they want to pick it up and give Bungie another $40 to $70, depending on if you get the extra expansion pass that comes with it now, because there is a second annual pass now that gives you 3 additional DLC drops in addition to the Forsaken expansion. So it is quite an investment if you want to get into Forsaken again. Now, at the time of this video, Bungie has actually changed their stance on one thing, and there's going to be a deal coming out, I believe, next week or within the next couple of weeks, where you no longer have to buy or own the Osiris, the Curse of Osiris expansion, or the Warmind expansion. They're going to come with Forsaken as part of a package deal now, which is something they should have done from the get-go, if we're being completely honest here. Both of those expansions were pretty lackluster. I've played through them both pretty extensively. Curse of Osiris was an absolute joke. It was probably worse than the Dark Below DLC for the original Destiny. Warmind is a little bit better just because it has a couple of cool quests and exotic quests built into it. Escalation Protocol is pretty neat, and there's actually a lot of stuff to do once you finish the lackluster DLC campaign missions. There's actually some pretty cool lore stuff going around and hunting for the memory fragments and whatnot, and you get to figure out kind of a cool story if you're into the lore that links into the Exo Stranger from the first Destiny, if you follow the lore pretty closely. But now you'll get both of those expansions if you buy the Forsaken in a couple of weeks with the new deal that they're coming out with. So if you're thinking about getting the game, you probably want to wait until then, because up until this point, Bungie has pretty much made it so that you have to purchase both of those expansions, even if you didn't originally. If you bought Destiny 2 and then kind of dropped out like a lot of people did before or after Curse of Osiris, then you would have to buy all of the DLCs in order to catch yourself up to play Forsaken, to access Forsaken, even though you don't have to actually play through either of those campaigns. So kind of a crappy move on Bungie's part to make the early adopters of Forsaken buy those expansions if they hadn't already, and now they're just giving them away as part of the package. But that's, let's be honest, that's typical Bungie. That's par for the course for them. But I don't want to harp too much on that. I want to kind of get into the Forsaken as an expansion, and how is it, is it a good expansion? A lot of people have been calling this the Taken King of Destiny 2. If we just want to rehash momentarily the life cycle of the original Destiny, the game had development problems. It came out. It was pretty lackluster, but quite honestly, it was in a much better state when it launched than Destiny 2 was. The first couple of DLCs were kind of mediocre, especially the Dark Below. House of Wolves wasn't that bad, but the game was definitely lacking. And then all of a sudden they came out with the Taken King. They kind of refocused their efforts and did a really good job. All the other controversies aside, I thought Taken King was an excellent expansion with the original Destiny. So Destiny 2 has kind of followed a very similar path. The game had lots of development issues again. It launched. It was pretty mediocre when it came out. People thought it was cool at first, but then they quickly found out within a week or two that this was, for some odd reason, they had decided to completely start over again and take away all the good stuff that Destiny had going for it at the end of its 3-year run, and just start over this new game, which wasn't anywhere near what the original had been. So we're looking at a very interesting set of circumstances following the development of the 2 games so far, and Destiny 2 appears to be following the exact same path that the original Destiny followed. Whether or not they'll continue to put out good content for the game, or if we'll see something similar to what happened with Rise of Iron coming out after Taken King and being kind of lackluster as a follow-up, I don't know. Only the future can tell us. And it's Bungie we're talking about, so who knows. So one thing I did read though is that High Moon Studios actually helped out quite a bit with Forsaken with the content for this expansion, and that is pretty clear from what I played. The content was pretty good quality for the most part, and that's something that High Moon has been known for. Two of my favorite games, the Transformers series, War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron, were both made by High Moon Studios, and they're one of my favorite developers. At least they were until they kind of fell under Activision's umbrella, but it's good to see they still have a fairly good influence on anything they touch, and you can definitely see some hallmarks of their touch in Destiny 2 Forsaken. But let's just get right off the bat here, and we're going to start with the story campaign. I put story in air quotes because this is something that Bungie has struggled with since they quit making Halo games, apparently. You know, Destiny's story was all over the place. Destiny 2's story is pretty non-existent for the most part. And they said, they said all the cool stuff and hyped up Forsaken about how they're going to do this dark story, and they showed our Guardian speaking in all the trailers. And spoiler alert, if you didn't know this already, Cade 6 dies, and pretty much right off the bat when you get into the story campaign. But everyone already knew that because Bungie kind of blew their load early with that and used it in all the advertisements for Forsaken. I don't know why. If you're going to kill off one of the supposed major characters of your cast, that's probably something you should make be a surprise, in the game at some point. You shouldn't just tell everybody it's going to happen right off the bat. I thought that was kind of a stupid idea on their part. But I guess they were going for shock factor and trying to get people drawn in by showing Cade dying and Prince Aldrin being back and all this other stuff. So, I don't know. Not a great decision in my mind. For the narrative. One of the games I think back to that I really enjoyed playing was Mass Effect 2, and one of the coolest things about Mass Effect 2 was that right off the bat they kind of kill you as the main character, but they never told you it was coming. So when it happens, it's kind of like, whoa, wait a minute, the game just started and I'm dead? Like, what happened there? So in this instance, even though they have Cade die right at the beginning, if they hadn't told us it was coming, it still would have been a pretty cool shock value, and at that point really drawn us into the story, like, oh my god, we've got to avenge Cade, we've got to go through and kill all these guys that took Cade out. Instead, we had already seen the completely epic cutscene that happens in the game. It's the same thing as what they showed in all the trailers, and so it was completely spoiled. There's no immersion, there was no oh my god, what just happened, we gotta, nothing to pull you into the story. And the one line of dialogue that you see in the trailer, you see our Guardian speaking to Zavala when he's like, oh, Prince Aldrin is mine, whatever, he tries to be like Batman. That's it. There's no more dialogue in the rest of the game, so they kind of did a bait and switch there. They try to make it look like, oh, our Guardian's going to be talking again like they did in Destiny. Even though they didn't talk much, they at least had some emotion and some voice lines here and there. In Destiny 2, it's all the ghosts speaking, and it really makes a lot of moments in the cutscenes completely awkward. I never forget the one time in the EDZ when I was running through the game early on, right when you get the mission to go to Titan to rendezvous with Zavala, and you're going up to give Hawthorne the radio transmitter, and they're all excited that you're helping out down at the farm, and then all of a sudden you tell Hawthorne, hey, we're going to go to Titan and try to rescue the Guardians and come back and save the city. And she just gets so angry at you, and it's this very tense scene. But you look at your Guardian, and he's just standing there with a dumb look on his face. There's no response, there's no emotion, there's no dialogue. It's just the ghost talking for you, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't pull you into the story at all. And so the same thing happens again in Forsaken. But anyways, you basically are spending time trying to avenge Cade's death, and you have to chase down these the Scorn and the Barons, and the Scorn are this new version of the Fallen. I'm going to give Bungie a little credit here. They actually did do some unique design here for the most part. It's a cool new enemy that you have to fight, and they have different hit areas with critical hits and things, and some of them are kind of lazy. There's one Fallen that's basically just a revamped Hive Ogre. But for the most part, it's kind of a more unique enemy faction to fight against than at least the Taken were. The Taken were incredibly lazy. But you go through, and you start off in the Prison of Elders, and there's kind of a fun little strike they throw into where the prison warden is going crazy and it's speaking in Varrix's voice, even though Varrix isn't back for the game. It's kind of fun that they have a strike in there where it kind of reenacts the Prison of Elders and Varrix is talking to you. He was one of my favorite characters, and House of Wolves, so that was kind of fun. But so you basically start off and you're working with Petrivenge and the Awoken, and one of the funny things is in this game is like they act like you've never met Petrivenge before, even though you're using your character from Destiny. It's almost like we had amnesia between the two games. I'm not sure what happened, but it's like, you know, Lord Saladin doesn't recognize us, we're not supposed to know who he is, we don't know who Petrivenge is, and it's just like, wait, didn't we spend all this time like helping these people out in the first game and they just forgot about us? So once again, there's a disconnect there with some of the lore. But so you join up with Petrivenge, you meet this pretty cool fallen guy named Spider, who's kind of a, I guess, fallen version of like Jabba the Hutt, and he's got this cool little lair in the Tangled Shore, which is a zone out in the middle of the asteroid field in the Awoken territory. And it's pretty cool, and you get bounties from him, and you hunt targets that escape from the Prison of Elders, that you can do this stuff on the side. But mainly through the story missions, you're going to go and hunt down the 8 barons that helped to kill Cade 6. And then you're eventually going to go after Prince Aldrin, and you're going to take him down, although instead of fighting him as the boss, you wind up fighting this giant servitor tentacle monster thing that actually is linked somewhat to the raid and some other things we've seen in the game previously. And so you fight this crazy weird servitor thing, and then that kind of leads you into the raid. But throughout the campaign, it shows the Queen of the Awoken, Aldrin's sister, and kind of teases at her return, and you eventually will meet her in-game, her actual self, not the fake self that's been leading Aldrin all this time. And that's one of the kind of the interesting plot twists you get at the end, as you see that Prince Aldrin has been led on by, we believe it's one of the Hive Gods that's been kind of controlling things and manipulating things. And you find out later on when you go into the raid that the main raid boss is actually an Ahamkara, which were the dragons rumored at in the first Destiny, that has been taken by a Hive God. So that's kind of cool. It links into some of the lore from before with the books of sorrows and things, and it's pretty neat. But the campaign is relatively short. You can beat it in about 4 or 5 hours. Maybe a little faster if you really try. There's not too many story missions. You're essentially just going to go through the Prison of Elders at the beginning, get to the Tangled Shore, do a few errands for the Spider, then you're going to hunt down all the barons, and then you're going to get to go to like the Dreaming City and the Awoken Tower, which is a newer zone, and you track down Aldrin and basically fight this giant servitor boss thingy. And eventually that opens up the raid for you. That opens up the Dreaming City, which is a new zone that's really well done. There's a lot of cool stuff to go there. You get to explore the Awoken City area, and they have it on a rotation because after the raid was beaten the first time, it actually unleashed Savathun's Curse, I guess is what they're calling it now. But there's basically a 3-week rotation of the Dreaming City, and every week something different has happened. There's more Hive corruption there and taken, and there's different activities and things you can do. And you get to meet Marisov, the Queen of the Awoken, in one point of it. So it's all pretty neat. There's a lot of stuff to do. But as a story, it's it's okay. It's not great. It's better than what Bungie's done in the past with Destiny 2 so far, at least in terms of the expansions. But it's still not anything to write home about. It's not amazing. There's nothing crazy awesome that sticks out here. When playing through the story, the writing is still really poor. The Guardian still doesn't talk. There's just really no immersion. You're basically just going from point A to point B, shooting as much ammo into everything that you can, possibly even skipping some of the cutscenes because there's really nothing crazy in any of them. But that's the campaign part of it, really. And I got to be honest, some of the mechanics were pretty cool. Like going around and having to take down all these barons was pretty cool, and there's some very interesting mechanics to each of their fights. Like you fight a baron called the Trickster who actually uses engrams as bombs, so you might think there's an engram on the ground if you're not paying attention, and when you walk over it explodes and like hurts you and kills you. It's pretty interesting. It's almost like the engrams Master Raoul used to give us, but it's pretty cool. There are definitely some really neat mechanics when you're fighting these barons. There's another guy who it's all about vehicles when you're driving around and trying to kill this dude. So lots of really interesting stuff that they brought into here. Now I'm going to get into some of the more of the changes that they actually brought into Destiny 2 with this expansion. There's a bounty system now where all of the NPCs you talk to will give you 3 daily bounties. Except for Shax and Zavala, I believe they give you, and the guy that runs Gambit the Drifter, they can give you up to 5, and sometimes there's a weekly bounty too you can do for them. And through these bounties, you build up reputation, and you can earn some legendary gear and some powerful gear through doing these. And it's pretty cool. It's nice to see this system brought back in. It's something that probably never should have left with the original Destiny. And these bounties are really easy to do. And there's also a thing, if you do 20 a week, there's a weekly powerful gear quest for Ikora, where if you do 20 bounties in the week, then you get a piece of powerful gear. They've also changed the way the clan experience works. You only can get the clan experience by doing clan bounties during the week, and then those build up your experience on your character, so you can get that powerful gear through your clan as well. So the bounty system was cool. I'm glad they brought that back. I had it kind of gave you a reason to go to some of the patrol zones, go back to some of the other planets like Titan and Nessus, and run around and do some of these patrols to build up reputation. And it's an easy way to get planet materials now, which is important because they've, again, revamped a lot of the systems in the game, and planet materials are now important, especially for infusion with your weapons. That's something I'm going to talk about now, is the infusion system, which for some odd reason they decided it would be smart to make it include legendary cores, or not legendary cores, masterwork cores, which masterwork was the way you could make your guns better before they made some of these changes. Masterwork cores now are very rare. They don't drop very much. You can buy them from Spider once you get to a certain point in his quest line, but they cost legendary shards, and the cost doubles after you buy each one. So there's kind of a slow pace of getting these. So if you get a weapon that you really, really like, and it's like a low power level, like 510, and you're at 560, you want to infuse that weapon, it's going to cost you 3 masterwork cores in addition to a bunch of planetary materials and legendary shards. So it's created a bit of a logjam in using the gear that you want, which is what Destiny really did properly in the first game, was allowing you to get the gear that you wanted to use, no matter what it was, and be able to continue to use it through an effective level. Now you're kind of screwed where it's like, oh, well, I have this really awesome auto rifle I like, but it's only 515, and I just got this crappy sidearm that dropped at 540, and I have to use this sidearm in order to get my max power level, so I can keep grinding to get higher power level. That's pretty much what the game has turned into. Now Bungie has said they're going to rework this system to make it a little bit less, I guess less work, I would say, less of a grind, but they haven't really put a timetable out on when that's going to happen. But that's definitely one really bad annoyance with the new systems they've put in place. And this kind of, to me, brings out an interesting thing I've noticed about Bungie with Destiny 2. They've really struggled with the game's identity. They can't figure out, is this game for casual players? Is this game for hardcore players? When Destiny 2 first came out, it was way too easy. The game threw exotics at you like it was going out of style. It was so easy to level up. The campaign was a joke. There were whole sections you could skip in story missions where the enemies, you could run past 20 enemies and they wouldn't even fire a shot at you. They made the game just way too easy at first. And then now with the Forsaken expansion, they've kind of gone back into this hardcore grinding mode where the raid is just like epically difficult. When they did the world's first, it was taking these teams almost 24 hours to beat this freaking raid. It's crazy. But I watched the whole thing. It was very interesting just to see how these guys did it. But they made the raid brutally hard. They made some of the content a little bit more difficult, especially if you're a solo player. And now exotics aren't dropping hardly at all from what I've been seeing and from what I experienced playing through the game. I think in the 2.5 weeks I got to spend with Forsaken, I think I got 1 exotic drop the entire time. And it was actually the new exotic bow. And it was pretty cool. But just the fact that they made the exotics so they went from giving them out like candy to now it's like you don't get any at all. There's no balance. They didn't strike a medium or a middle there where it still makes it feel like your time is meaningful when you're playing the game and getting these cool rewards. So it's almost like they've taken the game from being too casual to now it's too hardcore, and only the people like the YouTubers and streamers who can play the game for 12 hours a day are the only ones who are able to progress and get up their light level and get their power level up and get these cool weapons and stuff to drop for them. It's just, if you're a casual player now, if you're only going to jump on and play an hour or 2 each night, you're not going to make much progress anymore. So they've just failed to strike this balance, is the best way I can really describe it. So between the infusion system and the drop rates and just the gear being kind of lackluster. The time investment, if you were more of a casual player, just doesn't feel like it's there anymore. This was something they did really well in the first Destiny toward the end of the game, when basically you had all the different activities available and you could just jump on for an hour or two each night and say, oh, you know what, I'm going to go run some strikes for a little while and get some drops from the strike playlist. I'm going to get some exclusive strike loot from some of the treasure keys and whatnot. Or I'm just going to play PvP for an hour or two and get some drops from that. That has kind of gone away now. So you have to kind of consider that your time isn't meaningful that you're spending in the game anymore. And I don't know if that's true anymore with Destiny. And I mentioned the raid. I have played through a little bit of the raid. I have not completed it, kind of a disclaimer. It's the only really bit of content in Forsaken I don't have a ton of experience with, but I've watched it. I've always said the raids in Destiny are great. All the raids they've done have always been really good. It's probably going to be the kind of cornerstone piece of content in Forsaken, but it's also brutally difficult. If you have a looking for group team, it's going to be very hard to get a complete run of the Forsaken raid, because again, it seems like with this expansion they've gone back to catering to the hardcore player. So unless you have like a 6-man pre-made, it's going to be a really difficult raid for you to complete. And I think this is probably going to be the raid that the least amount of players in Destiny franchise complete at some point. But it's a cool raid nonetheless. The last boss is really epic. It's like 3 stories tall and a lot of really cool mechanics. So it's definitely there. It's a cool piece of content, but like I said, it's a little too difficult for your run-of-the-mill average casual player of Destiny. And that seems to be a problem that they've gone into with Forsaken. Now, I want to talk about PvP for a little while, because some major changes were done with PvP too. They went back to the old kind of format for quick play, where it's back to being 6v6, and they're bringing back some of the old game modes, and they're making abilities charge much faster again. So Crucible is basically back to being the same crap fest that it was before. I've never been a huge fan of Destiny's PvP. I just simply don't care for it, mainly because there are too many crutch abilities within the game. You don't get a true test of gun skill, in my opinion. There's not enough gunfights. It's basically you round a corner and you get smacked in the face with a super or a rocket or a sleeper simulant or a grenade or some nonsense one-hit kill melee crap. It's just, for a game that relies on its really quality gunplay, you don't really get enough of that in the Crucible and the PvP. So it feels a lot of times that the PvP caters towards people with less skill, because it makes it so easy to get kills, not having to actually be able to aim and hit headshots. You can run around with a shotgun or just an overpowered power weapon, or just wait till your super comes up and get 4 or 5 easy kills. That's just the way I've always felt, and it's tolerable at times in the original Destiny. Like Iron Banner was one of my favorite things to play, because that you really kind of brought out the more skilled players. But Destiny 2, when it first launched, PvP was one of the things that I actually enjoyed about it, was the fact that they were going to a more skill-based PvP similar to Halo, where it was 4v4, and you were more reliant on your guns because your abilities didn't charge that quickly and your super didn't come up that often. But that was actually a big complaint from a lot of the community early on, and that's pretty much, to me, because a lot of the community is used to having all their crutches in the game. And so you have that in Destiny 2. You have people that will settle on using the same weapon over and over and over again, whether it's the Graviton Lance or the Vigilance Wing or whatever, or the Sleeper Simulant, whatever weapon of the month it is, everybody will start using it. But they're back to the old system now, which really disappoints me, because I thought they had a good base when Destiny 2 came out for going to a more skill-based PvP type shooter. And that's why I laugh anytime I hear them talk about, oh, hey, we're going to we're going to make Destiny an MLG game and all this, and there's just no way. It's just not it's not a competitive shooter at all, with all the nonsense that you get to use in the game, to get free kills, like your grenades and supers and other stuff. And it's actually funny, because there's a part in this video I'm going to put up where I go through a PvP match, and literally I think 6 out of 7 deaths in a row are I walk around a corner and die to a super. It's like I don't even get a chance to fight. It's like you turn around a corner and it's like, oh, cool, we can fight this guy in or not. Let's exchange fire and see who can aim better and have a skillful fight. No, it's like, oh, Panic Stupor, Nova Bomb, or just get whacked in the face with some overpowered hunter crap, or this new Nova Warp super they've given these warlocks that lets them just run rampant through the entire team. It's just really, it's really not enjoyable at all for me. So PvP is definitely not a bright spot for Destiny 2, in my opinion. I think the Crucible is just a mess. And some people like the chaotic fun. They think it's fun just to go through and spam grenades and do all this, but I don't care for it at all. Especially where I've been playing Overwatch a lot. It's just, I prefer a more balanced and skillful type game mode, but the Crucible is definitely, I think, in a worse spot than it was actually when Destiny 2 launched. So I know that's not the popular opinion in the community, but that was my community, or not my community, that was my opinion when Destiny 2 came out, was that they were going in a good direction with PvP and making it more skill-based, but now they've pretty much just given that up. So if you didn't like Destiny's PvP before, you're probably not going to like it at this point. And unfortunately, they do tie a couple of quests and some exotic quest lines into having to play PvP, so they're still doing that whole thing where they're kind of forcing PvE players to participate in PvP, even if they don't want to, if they want to get some of the gear in the game. And that's always been another problem they've had, struggling to find a balance, you know, whether they want to cater to PvP or PvE with Destiny, and that's still an issue. That's still there. Now, one really cool bright spot I want to talk about with Forsaken, and this is probably my favorite part of this expansion, because you guys know me, I love Mass Effect 3's multiplayer. I love horde mode style games where you can play with your friends and play with your team. And I want to talk for a minute about Gambit, which is a new game mode they brought in with Forsaken. And Gambit is essentially a player versus enemy / player versus player experience where you go in, you fight against waves of enemies, and you eventually can summon a big boss at the end, and whichever team kills their big boss faster wins the round, and it's 3 rounds. Whoever wins 2 rounds wins the overall match. And you can get bounties to do while you're playing Gambit. There's a whole gear set for it, for weapons and armor, and it's a pretty cool game mode. I have to be honest, it has some problems, but I really had a lot of fun with Gambit. Just being able to go in there and kind of chill out and play this PvE based experience with, you know, a little bit of PvP interaction here and there was actually pretty cool. And basically what happens is you and your team are going to try to kill these basic enemies who drop things called motes, and then you take the motes and you put them in your bank, and you can summon blockers that go over to the other side. Now when a blocker goes through, it basically shuts down the enemy bank for a time so they can't put their motes in, and they have to kill the blockers before they can proceed. Now once you get 75 motes built up, you summon a primeval taken boss that you then have to kill before the other team can. And so what can happen is during these matches there's a portal that goes into the enemy team's arena, and if your portal gets activated you can jump over into their arena, you can kill some of their enemies, and you can kill them. And if their main boss is up and you kill them, it actually will heal their boss so that they can't kill it quite as quickly. And it's kind of a really neat experience. I really enjoyed playing it. Now, there are some issues. One of the main issues is, of course, if you've been on Reddit or read anything at all about Gambit and Destiny, you've probably seen all the complaints about the sleeper simulant. When you jump into the opponent's arena, you essentially have a wall hack and you have an overshield. So you're already at an advantage even though it's 1 versus 4. And the sleeper simulant is a fusion rifle type weapon that is really easy to get kills with, even if you're like completely terrible at PvP. So what's basically been happening is someone will come in with a sleeper simulant and pretty much wipe out the entire enemy team with basically 0 effort. And Bungie's been talking about how they're going to probably nerf the gun just for that mode if they can, because it's created such an issue. It hasn't been a problem for me, honestly, because I just look at Gambit as I'm there to have a good time and kind of relax, and it's just one of those, like, the same thing with Mass Effect 3's Horde mode. It's just kind of a fun way to chill out for a little bit and just enjoy playing some good old Horde mode and killing a bunch of enemies. So I really liked Gambit. I thought it was a good addition to the game. I think it's something that's going to keep a lot of people playing the game, even if the regular content gets stagnant. And as I'm always so critical of Bungie, I wanted to definitely give them credit for this, because I think it's a good design choice. And it gives them some flexibility going forward, to get new bosses and things like that. Like, I really enjoyed Prison of Elders, and it almost seems like this is what Forsaken's version of Prison of Elders is going to be. Similar to Court of Oryx. Court of Oryx was also really enjoyable in The Taken King. Unfortunately, not a lot of people played it that much, and Archon's Forge was also pretty cool in the Rise of Iron expansion. So I think Gambit is kind of a combination of all of these things, and they've done it on a much better scale by making it a matchmaking activity and tying in some gear with it and some accomplishments. So that's pretty cool. I really enjoyed Gambit. So I want everybody to make sure they understand. I'm a big Destiny critic, big Bungie critic. I actually really enjoyed Gambit. Is it enough to make me buy the expansion? Yeah, not really. So that's kind of the overall, just my take on Forsaken so far. I did want to talk about one other thing, and another thing I actually think they did really well with Forsaken was they've kind of made lore is kind of back in the game, so to speak, and you've got a new menu that you can go to that has like your triumphs and lore items that you find in the game now. Before, you could just go around and scan stuff with your ghost and it would kind of tell you what was going on. Now you can actually find lore items in the game, in just random spots. And I'm sure there's going to be guides all over the place about how to find these things. They've kind of brought back dead ghosts as well, which you can find in Entangled Shore. And there's some pretty cool stuff now. You can actually find little pieces of, like, you find Prince Aldrin's spaceship on Mars in one of the lost sectors, and you collect storybook chapters now that you can read in one of your lore tabs on your menu, on your character menu. So that's pretty cool. And they've also got lore now for all the weapons and items and armor. You can go to a collections tab and see all the different exotics and armor pieces you've discovered, and they all have little lore tidbits and stories about them you can read. Especially the exotics have some really cool in-depth ones. And they've kind of added the collections back in and kind of given the lore hunters something to do, and that was actually pretty neat. There's also the Triumph section, which kind of tracks your accomplishments throughout the game, and this is just random stuff like getting a Titan to power level 600 or 500 or 300 or whatever, or getting 200 kills with your certain type of grenade, or playing 250 strikes, or killing this boss, or killing these targets, doing all the lost sectors on a planet. There's all kinds of different triumphs. There's triumphs for Gambit, there's triumphs for lore, there's triumphs for PvP, there's triumphs for PvE, there's triumphs for character type and account, and it brings in some of the stuff even from the first Destiny, like if you beat one of the raids, or if you bought a certain version of the game. There's just all kinds of neat stuff now they have with the triumphs tab. So really good job on that, I think Bungie has done. But the problem I have with all this is I'm like, why is it taking them this long to get this into the game when we already had a pretty good version of this with the original Destiny? And this is going to bring me to my overall thoughts on Destiny 2, the state of the game. I think it's gotten really good with Forsaken, quite honestly. I think it's a really good expansion. And that's God's honest truth. I think it's a really good expansion after being very critical of Destiny and Destiny 2. I think they did a good job with Forsaken. There's a lot of stuff to do now. It's definitely going to keep you invested time-wise for a long time. Especially if you're a casual player, you're going to have to invest a good bit of time into it. And so I think they did a really good job with that, and just giving you all kinds of different things to do now. The triumphs, if you're one of those accomplishment or achievement hunter type people, the triumphs tab is going to be really good for you, because it's going to allow you to pursue some things and get your triumph score up, so you can compare it to other people. Like they had the Grimoire score in the first game, which is like trying to find all the different lore items. Now you've got a triumph score you can display with one of your emblems, and it's pretty cool. I really like that system. But again, I keep coming back to, do I want to spend an extra $40 to $70 to get back into Destiny just for this? And I just can't bring myself to spend the extra money at this point, especially knowing Bungie's history with the original Destiny, where they did the whole thing with the Taken King, and it was really good. And then Rise of Iron was kind of and they went back a little bit. And even after Taken King came out, Destiny was in an okay spot, but Bungie was still treating their community like crap. You know, they still were not very attentive to the community. They were still lying to the community about a lot of stuff. And I just wonder if that's not going to happen again. If we're not going to see the exact same stuff happen with Destiny 2. So, I don't know. But being completely honest, I really did enjoy the time I spent in Forsaken. For me personally, with all the other games I'm playing right now, it's not enough for me to come back. Now, Forsaken went on sale for like $30. I might think about it. But right now, I'm not going to jump back in and reinvest the money into this game. I just don't feel like it's worth it for me, even though, you know, I thought the expansion was pretty good. And that brings me to another point, which a lot of people have been debating. You know, should this be a full price expansion? You know, should they? You know, is it worth the $40? You know, but you got to buy the new pass for $30, and you know the other two DLCs weren't worth $5. And you know, everybody's getting upset, and you know, the Bungie's trying to make more money on this, and I can see both sides here. Personally, I don't think they should have gone the route of having another annual pass available right off the bat. Or, if they wanted to do the annual pass, what I honestly think they should have done as a gesture of good faith to the community, was to basically include the next 3 DLC packs with the Forsaken purchase. I think if you paid $40 for the Forsaken and the next 3 DLCs that are coming out, I think that would have been a very good value for what you're getting here. Obviously, we don't know what we're getting yet with the 3 expansion packs that are coming up, so who knows. But I think that would have been a nice move on Bungie's part. Instead, they kind of did go the greedy route, and you know, oh, but by the way, we're giving you, here's the new expansion, but guess what, guys? You got to give us another $30 down the road if you want to keep on enjoying the Destiny experience. And that's just typical Bungie to me. And that's one of the reasons I can't get back into this game. It's just they continue to do the same crap over and over again. They fall into the same pitfalls over and over and over again, even though time and time again it's bitten them in the butt, and they've just had horrible relations with their community because of this. So I don't know. That's the main thing. I just think the pricing structure could have been done a little bit better to kind of say, hey guys, we screwed up before, we're sorry. You know, we kind of milked you through playing an alpha version of the game for the first year it was out, and we're sorry. And so now you can get this really good expansion and the next little bit of DLC for $40 instead of us nickel and diming you all over the place for everything. A lot of people argue that this should have been free. I don't agree with that at all, because you know, the developers do have to make a little bit of money. You know, I mean, they do have families to feed, and while I don't have a ton of sympathy for them, there are some people that work at Bungie who probably are, you know, just work really, really hard at their jobs, and they're not out there like Luke Smith and the Mark Noseworthies and the Deeges of the world who are just trying to pull the wool over your eyes and continually screw you over. I'm sure there's actually some probably like normal employees at Bungie who want to see a little bit of reward from their hard work they put into the game. Like, you know, it's like the art team and the music, the people that design some of the levels. I think they do a really good job. You know, obviously the people who design the gunplay and the mechanics do a really good job. But they're not the face of the company. You know, the face of the company are kind of some arrogant little pricks. But you have to remember, at the same time, there's some normal people that work there who are just grunting it out and just trying to get by. So you can't have just the DLC come out and be free. So, you know, I get why people are upset and they make that argument, but you just can't do it. It's just not going to happen. But like I said, I think they should have just done the whole thing, the whole package for $40, and I think it would have been worth it for sure. So, will this revive Destiny for Bungie? Will Bungie, you know, repeat their old processes they've had in the past and screw this up again? Only time is going to tell. But for right now, to be honest with you, like I said, I think the Forsaken is a really good expansion. If you really like Destiny and you want to get back into it, it's probably something you should at least give a thought. For me, it's more of a principle thing where I just don't want to give them any more money. I've given them enough money, and even just making these videos showing the gameplay and talking about it, giving them kind of free publicity, I just don't want to support Bungie because they're not a company that I think has good morals anymore. So, I don't know. That's my 2 cents, which I know aren't worth much, but I just kind of wanted to get my thoughts out there on this new expansion. more of a personal level, I guess. It's not really this really wasn't much of an official, like, oh, this is what they're doing with the game now. This is more of me just kind of rambling and telling you guys what I thought playing through the expansion. So would love to hear your thoughts, guys, if you've been playing Destiny 2, if you're back in the game, if you bought the Forsaken and you're going all in, what you've been enjoying about it so far, what you don't like about it, or if you're kind of like me where you're still sitting on the fence and you're not really going to get back into Destiny at this time, which is understandable. So I think I've talked about this long enough. This video went a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I just wanted to get these thoughts out there and just share them with everybody, especially those of you who might be on the fence about Destiny 2. And that's going to do it for me, guys. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you guys are having a great day. Thank you, as always, for watching, and I will see you again next time.